Hello, Gary.
How are you, Margie?
I am fine, thank you. It's very nice to be sitting in your chambers. I am here with my guest, Judge Gary P. Flower, Duval County, 4th Circuit Judge, Florida. And Gary is a fellow Rotarian and is here today to share some of his thoughts about his life and his profession for all of our viewers. So Gary, let's start with where you were born. Where were you born?
I was actually born in Miami. My father was a captain in the Navy, and his last duty station was down in Puerto Rico. So when it was time for me to be born, for some reason they flew me up to Miami to be born. And my sister, who came along 2 years behind me, was actually born in Puerto Rico at Exilio Muto Hospital in San Juan. But for whatever reason, they flew me up there to be born, so I was born there. But I lived the first about 6 years of my life in Puerto Rico.
And because of your father's profession, did that require a lot of moving on the part of your family?
No, my father actually got out of the Navy shortly thereafter, and so he did all his moving with my mom before my sister and I were born. And then he wound up purchasing a family business down in Fort Lauderdale, and we wound up there. But my family's originally from Savannah. They were British officers who were with Oglethorpe in 1733 when he founded Savannah, along with the Delegals and lots of other families. So there's flowers all over Georgia and South Carolina.
Interesting. And you picked up your interest in law at what point in your life? Was it in high school or college?
Actually, I originally wanted to be an oceanographer because I really love the ocean a lot. I used to be a lifeguard on the beach and surfed and dove and did all the ocean-related activities, water skied, did all that fun stuff. But I just started being more interested in law because I liked the structure, I liked the analytical thinking about it. So by the time I was in college, I had a hankering to become a lawyer.
And where did you go to college?
I went to Jacksonville University. And so it was interesting because I went to school with my two best friends from high school. And so that's where they got in, and that's where I wound up.
You certainly could have gone the oceanography route by choosing a college like JU.
Oh, now we can, with OSearch there, absolutely. But you know, Quentin White was there, and he was quite a fixture when I was there at school, and the school had a great program. You know, look, we've got a river right in its back door, and we've got the ocean right out our front door, so it was a natural fit for JU to ramp up its programs with regards to oceanography and marine science. So, but Quentin White, you know, was a legend by the time I got there in the 70s, late 70s.
Absolutely. And then where did you go to law school?
The law school at Stetson. I had a little break in between. I worked at Blue Cross Blue Shield. I started an internship with a gentleman who had left the government named Mike Hightower. And after my summer internship, Mike Hightower hired me full-time. They created a position for me, and I stayed at Blue Cross for a few more years before I went to law school.
And that was in government relations, is that correct?
Mm-hmm. My title was a government relations specialist, which was basically anything Mike wanted me to do, but technically a lobbyist, state and federal lobbyist.
Terrific. And then from there, what segued you into law specifically?
Well, that's a great question, because my intent was to still go to law school, but to come back and work at Blue Cross as a lobbyist. And I actually did some lobbying while I was in law school for independent, I guess people are called consultants now, but I was an independent lobbyist for some different groups of folks. But what happened is when I went down to law school, I got bit by the trial bug. And so once I started doing that trial practice in the moot courts and the trial team stuff, that I truly enjoyed the courtroom. And so I thought, oh, well, maybe I won't come back and be a lobbyist. Maybe I'll come back and, be involved in litigation. And so a group of good friends and professional mentors to me all got together in Jacksonville one long weekend and discussed what I was going to do and where I was going to go. And we landed on me coming back to work at Jacksonville and working at the state attorney's office. And I was blessed to be hired by Ed Austin, the then state attorney, and John Delaney, our chief assistant, and Rick Mullaney, who's now over at JU, actually interviewed me, and I came up for a couple more interviews, and I was blessed to be hired. So, and from there, you know, hit the ground running.
You know, interestingly, when I think about your background, there's a lot of salesmanship in lobbying, and also a lot of salesmanship in trial work. Would you say so?
I'd say salesmanship with credibility, though.
Oh, absolutely.
Because, you know, when you're talking to a legislator, oftentimes, you know, you have access to the legislator, and that's what you're asking for as a lobbyist. You just want access, but you're educating them, and you're educating the staffs, and you know, your word is your bond. You can't mislead, and I think, you know, I've, in my 30 years of being a lawyer, I really have found that jurors and people that you're dealing with, you know, they're pretty sophisticated. They may not know the technicalities of things, but they know people, and they can tell if someone's not being truthful and forthright with them. So I think that you really need to have integrity in both.
Absolutely. Along the way, you build relationships, and you have a stunning repertoire of relationships that are very authentic and historic in this town. But maybe you could share with us one particular relationship that I believe affected your life significantly in 2000 with an appointment to this judgeship.
Well, I was appointed to this judgeship by then Governor Jeb Bush. It was one of his first group of appointees. At the time, I was the youngest appointee that he had made. Now the governors are appointing folks a bit younger than I was at the time. But you know, I was blessed to have that relationship based upon my relationship with Mike Hightower and the people that I had a chance to work with through my time at Blue Cross, and when I came out and was a young assistant state attorney. I can remember the comment that the governor made to me after he asked me if I wanted to be a judge, which was a great moment. And he said, "Everybody tells me you're Mike Hightower's son. How is it that you have a different last name?" And I explained to him how my parents, after my internship, sort of said, "Take him under your wing, Mike, and see what you can do with him." We've had him for 18 years, and Mike and I became not just employer, employee, or boss, but we have a deeper relationship than that. In fact, I talked to him this morning. I pretty much talked to him a lot. He's since my father's passing, he's the default person that I pick the phone up and ask questions about anything, life lessons, anything, because well, I know the guy. I know it sounds a little odd, but in an agape way, in a Christian way, he loves me, and he would never give me bad advice. And there are times that there are things I wanted to do, whether it's an appointment to something or you know, people asking me to be involved in a commission or something else, and you know, me filling out the applications and starting to move in that direction. He pulled me aside and said, "Let's think about this, and let's think bigger picture, and how will this affect you, your family life, your other things," and was able to allow me to see it from a different perspective. And you only get that from people who truly care about you.
So in a way, if you were to think back on your life as to who might be one of the pivotal people who made a real difference in your life, I guess Mike Hightower would be one of those people.
You know, I've often said yes. The short answer is yes, but I've often said there are worse people to be welded to than Mike Hightower.
That is for sure.
In my life. And I've had a number of, I've been really blessed. You know, they say that if you have one true friend in your life, you're truly blessed. But I've been blessed to have a number of true friends that we'd all take bullets for each other, as a matter of speaking. But I had some amazing mentors. I mean, Dr. Carver, while at Jacksonville University, Joan Carver, who I just saw last week, an amazing mentor. She's the person who steered me in the direction of the internship with Mike, which that wouldn't have happened. And I already had an internship lined up at the state attorney's office. I had a plan. I always have a 1, 3, 5, 7-year plan on sort of what I'm going to do and what I want to do. And you know, I couldn't say no to her. Then of course there's Mike, Dr. Walker Blanton over at JU, the history professor, and I have a great love of history, and he continued to instill or fortify my love for history by his tales and his direction on great reads outside of class. I've had a number of great judge mentors, Don Moran, David Wiggins, Judge Wilkes in Clay County, Judge Foster. They've all been great mentors to me, and so I've truly been blessed. When I start to feel like I'm having a bad day, I had a bad day yesterday with cars breaking down of kids and things not happening the way they should and cracking a tooth and all kinds of things, I stop and say, wait a second, you've truly been blessed. God has put you here for a purpose, and you have been truly blessed with all the great direction and mentorship and folks that have taken you under their wing and guided you. So I have nothing to be upset about.
Your life is a component of so many pieces. It's hard to fathom how a busy person can get so much done. But if you could rattle off for our viewers just a few of the organizations that you're passionate about, because I come to you through the Rotary Club of Jacksonville, and I know your commitment. I see your commitment to our club. But this is only one of a number of commitments in your life beyond your family, which I hope that we can talk about in a moment. But some of the organizations beyond Rotary that you're involved in, could you share those with us?
I'm on the Board of Trustees at Jacksonville University. I'm the chairman of the Alumni Association. I'm on the board of the Police Athletic League, the advisory board. I'm on the board of the Boys and Girls Club of Jacksonville. I'm the co-program director for the Historic Society, Jacksonville Historic Society. I am an officer at our conference and a past president of the Conference of County Court Judges statewide. I'm involved in 2 bar committees, the Bar Leadership Academy and the Judicial Nominating Procedure Committee. I'm the chair of the Professionalism and Mentoring Committee for the Jacksonville Bar.
And how many children?
3, all graduated from college, thank the Lord, and a wife who's a teacher at an urban school. So we stayed quite busy. And you might ask yourself, when does he ever get any judging done? I look at it sometimes and I say it's probably a combination of a product of what was instilled by my father. I call it paying civic rent. My father said we must pay civic rent, and I think I probably ought to copyright that term because
that's an interesting expression, paying civic rent.
And because when I was younger, we were involved in the community. My father was one of the people who believed in for whom much has been given, much is expected, and we were constantly involved in the community, and not from a business perspective, from a truly altruistic perspective. And so I grew up with it. It's part of my DNA. It's a mutable biological fact that it's in our blood, both my sister and myself, and there's only the 2 of us. And so, from the time I was young, we were always doing something to give back. And it gives you a lot of satisfaction, especially when you're young and you can't write the check, but you can get out there and give sweat equity. And so for me, I think it's a combination of what was instilled in me at a young age from my father and his father, and my mother's side of the family, as well as maybe a little bit of ADD. I like to stay busy. I'm not quite sure I know how to relax, if that makes sense to you.
So, a lot of the viewers are our millennial audience, and they're still trying to figure out how to spend their time and maximize their impact in the world. And I guess you would probably say that it's never too young to start giving back. You don't wait till you reach a certain level of success and then give back. You give back to reach that level of success. Is that correct?
Yeah, and I think it's not a success in a way of meeting people to network to get business. I mean, I think there's a lot of there's nothing wrong with that. That's why there are social clubs, fraternal clubs, all kinds of clubs. But I think that you're never too young to get involved in something you're passionate about. And there's lots of things out there, lots of organizations, and I look at it like a buffet. I take a little from each one of the categories or each one of the pans and give it a taste and say, what are you passionate about? It's a perfectly legitimate passion to love animals like I do, or to be involved in juvenile diabetes issues. And sometimes it just doesn't have to be something that touches your family. And if you take yourself outside your comfort zone sometimes, you'd be surprised at how many great organizations there are that you can give to. And there's a lot of personal satisfaction. You know, when you're young, you don't, like I said, you don't have the money to just write a check and say, let me just put the money in the kettle, or let me just write a big check and not go down there and paint, you know, the Civic Center, or the youth center in a neighborhood. There is just a lot of camaraderie and the whole gung-ho idea of people getting together and pitching in to help their community, because after all, you live here, you work here, you play here, and everyone wants it to be a better place to live and a better place to raise their children, a better place to do business. That's why we call it a home. That's why we live here and not other places.
No doubt. I think a lot of younger people would try to characterize themselves as being responsive to their environment and thus open to opportunities. But there are so many pearls that you've already shared in this video, and one of them is that you like to do the 1, 3, 5, and 7-year plan. And I'm asking you to comment on that as a strategy for someone who's starting out. Does that enable you to be responsive to the environment that offers you opportunities, or does that keep you on a straight and narrow path as a very goal-oriented person?
So the short answer is it allows you to be flexible. But I think I'm a what gets measured gets accomplished person. I like rules and I like structure.
You're a captain's son.
Yeah, and I didn't grow up in a democracy, and so it wasn't. There wasn't this much input in my house about what we would do, what we would eat, where we would go on vacation. But it was always a good time, and there was a lot of love, and so that was important. And we were made to feel like we were part of the family, and that's important as well. So to your question, I think once you have goals, it doesn't lock you in such that you can't be flexible. And for instance, you know, just to harken back to what we talked about with the internship, my goal was to be at the state attorney's office, do an internship there as an investigator, go off to law school, come back, they would know me, they would know my work ethic. I would have a leg up on, you know, someone who was not just a number or a name on a resume, they would know me. But that wasn't what was happening, and I call that happenstance. You know, I was just happened to be over at the school one day when Mike Hightower called Dr. Carver and asked for an intern, and you know, she asked me, I told her no, I had a plan, and she asked me, and I had a lot of respect for it. I said fine, and boom, I took a different path. And so I would say have a plan, but don't be so rigid that you're so stuck to the plan, because, and there's nothing wrong with being ambitious. You know, I've heard it said that someone who's ambitious is just not smart enough to be lazy. I don't know if I totally agree with that, but not ambitious in a fakey way, ambitious in a way that you can both give to yourself and your career and be honest with yourself. And at the same time, be ambitious in the goals that you have, and whether it's to go to law school, go to medical school, run a marathon, you know, kayak the St. John's River, swim across the St. John's River. There's nothing wrong with that.
Just get the job done and,
yeah,
and get it done well.
You know, I'm one who likes to eat my broccoli first and then savor the ice cream, not eat the ice cream and then argue whether I should have broccoli. And that's a term often used in my house with regards to discipline. And so I think there's plenty of opportunities for people to have plans, but at the same time be flexible enough in the plans, because you don't know when opportunity is going to knock. And sometimes it's knocking on your door to go to law school. Sometimes it's knocking on your door to be asked to become a member of the Rotary Club. Sometimes it's knocking on your door to be asked to be a volunteer someplace where suddenly it sparks a passion in you, and you say, really, I never thought this place was here. This is amazing. I love the work they're doing.
Did you choose the field of law that you are now in, and the chamber that you are in charge of? Is this the law that you sought out, and could you share with the viewers what that is?
So, because I'm a county judge, I hear criminal cases up to a certain misdemeanor cases, and I hear civil cases up to a certain dollar amount. And I chose to be a county judge, and I've actually chose to stay in the position there. I've been nudged on more than one occasion to go to the next level of the court, and oftentimes I actually do circuit court work. I do high-risk sexual offender, they call it Jimmy Rice, which is circuit court work. I've actually been doing circuit court work since I've been here the last almost 19 years as a judge. So I've done family, I've done circuit criminal, I've done circuit civil, but I enjoy the kind of work I do because of this kind of cases, because I think you can really make a difference in people's lives. I mean, you have an offender that comes before you committed a robbery, the guidelines are maybe 30 years to life. You really don't have a lot of flexibility, but here we're not as encumbered with guidelines, and we can actually use a lot of discretion in ways. So you can help fix people, and you can give people chances, and at the same time, you know, I'm an originalist. I believe, you know, what the statute says is what it says, and our first function is to punish, and then to assure somebody's contrition, and then rehabilitation in that order. And that's what they say, and that's how I function. But it allows you to be more flexible in the way you deal with people. And you know, 80% of the people that walk into the courtroom in the state of Florida see a county judge. And so we're really the first face, and sometimes the only face they ever see, and sometimes the only face they see consistently, because they don't commit crimes high enough to become felonies, or their cases in controversy amounts are too low to be issues for a circuit judge. And so, you know, how you treat people, whether or not you listen to them and treat them with dignity and respect, and that's a subjective term too. I mean, people who lose sometimes aren't happy about it, and with all of us, no matter what the reputation of the judge is. But at the end of the day, I think that if you step back away, someone steps back away from their experience, if they were listened to and a reasoned decision was made, there really is not a whole lot of reason to complain. There's always a winner and a loser down here. That's why they're coming to court to have us make those decisions. So,
Well, when you talk about your family and the democracy that you were not raised in, I assume that you apply the same discipline. You applied the same discipline to raising your children. One of the things I enjoyed reading so much about you was that you would take your kids on.
archaeological digs?
Yes.
Yeah.
Your children, I assume, were raised with the same discipline that you were raised with. And one of the things I found so charming about the way you raised them was that you took your interest in history and you took them on archaeological treasure hunts, essentially. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Well, let me start by saying this, that they were raised with some form of discipline, but not the same discipline I had. I recall my wife saying, don't you want them to have a better life than you had? And I asked the question, how much better a life should they have? So they've had it better. Maybe school was tougher for them, but they've had it better on the discipline side. But to your question with regards to the archaeological digs, yes, I have a passion. My father started looking for artifacts on campsites and battlefields, Revolutionary War, 1812, Civil War, Spanish-American War, campsites and battlefields in the mid-50s, and he was a guy, early pioneer of doing that with an old mine detector when he wasn't floating around in between his duty stations. And so...
A Geiger counter?
Yeah.
You used a Geiger
mine detector. Mine detector. Post-World War II mine detector.
That's
and
great.
So when I was really, really young, in the early 60s, I used to walk along with him in the fields, and you know, I found pretty much as he did by the farmers throwing the stuff up against the fence line. I had a little bag that I had over my shoulder and would dump all the stuff I would eyeball and find out. But as soon as I was old enough to swing a metal detector, I was out there in the field with him. And that actually became because he had his own business, it became our yearly vacation. So,
You actually found things?
oh, I've got a huge collection of artifacts from Revolutionary War all the way through Spanish-American War.
It's incredible.
Yes.
And I think I read that you donate these to museums or libraries?
Libraries, museums, any place that needs them. We gave, myself and a relic hunting partner gave all of the Civil War and 1920s and post-Civil War artifacts that to the La Villa Museum. So they're still on display there. My sons were there during a history tour from UNF. They went over there and saw some of the artifacts that we gave them, so they could have some of that rich history that came out of the ground right around the corner from the courthouse. I actually kept none of the stuff we found from down here and give it all to La Villa. I give artifacts to children who can recite the Gettysburg Address at schools during part of a teaching and program.
Incredible.
So if they can recite the Gettysburg Address and have it blown up and they have to turn around and I have the class it's on a board and the class can read along with them, and if they can recite it, I will give them an artifact. I think that's such an amazing speech because it really does a lot. It's so great for so many reasons. The language that was used in the speech, Lincoln basically talking about what a grand experiment this country was and how the rest of the world was watching to see if it would fail and almost hoping it would fail, quite candidly. Lifting up those who gave the ultimate sacrifice on the field of battle there at Gettysburg, and at the same time welcoming the Confederacy back into the Union without punishing them. It's all found in 272 words. It's just an amazing speech. And so they don't teach it as much in the schools anymore. So for me, I felt like if I can give an artifact that comes from around here that was found, it would have some meaning and it would attach them to the speech and they'd remember it forever.
Well, Judge Flower, you are a study in balance. You are a study in family, in leadership, in paying, what did you call it, civic rent?
Civic rent. Mm-hmm.
And,
it's my term.
And in a sterling legal career. And I am honored to know you. I think you're an incredible amount of fun to have in the Rotary Club, and I wish you all the best as you continue. Is there anything you would like to say in closing to either the young viewers or the members in general before we say goodbye?
Well, I want to thank you for the opportunity. I really do. And I want to tell everyone, look, it's out there. Find your passion. Have balance in your life. You can't always work too much or play too much. Nothing comes easy, but there's a lot of gratification in being a part of your community and having your hands, for lack of a better term, in the soil and the fabric of your community. So go out there and do great things and get it done. Have a great day.